when I went to college, I went to get my degree in biology because I had the intentions of going and becoming a pediatrician. And then I studied abroad and realized I did not want to become a pediatrician.
Don't
Uh,
you also hate needles?
yeah,
Yep.
that I studied abroad. Yeah, found out how much I hate needles. Uh, and that was part of it. So I decided to switch my major to psychology because I've always still really loved like getting to know people and just sharing stories and like learning how people think. And I thought that psychology would be something easily applied to like many different facets of life. Because at the time I was really interested in potentially going more towards the entertainment industry, like on the writing side or on like the production side or the marketing side. So I was like, okay, well, psychology will definitely help me in that aspect. And I had a minor. I ended up getting a minor in biology because I had so many credits when I switched. But anyways, so my goal was to graduate and get a job somewhere, anywhere in the industry, like work in an internship. I don't care. And I did get an internship, but then my loans came due, and when you go into the entertainment industry on any end, majority of the time you are starting at the bottom and you are not making money. And my loans were coming knocking essentially, and I had to unfortunately choose a job that would pay more. So I ended up going into insurance, which is not where I thought I would land. But I was able to use my psych degree. But then I ended up moving on into teaching because I thought that that would be something great. And I really did enjoy teaching. But there were aspects of it that I didn't end up loving. And just for my mental health, had to leave. And so, now I'm in the career that I'm in now, working more on actually, funnily enough, the marketing side of things in Texas. So it's been an interesting journey, but I never anticipated switching so many industries before kind of landing where I am. And I mean, who knows if I'll stay here? I may, move on. Right now, I enjoy what I'm doing, but I very recently started. So, but I find now that I have a little more. I feel like I can breathe a little more in paying my loans. So it's afforded me the opportunity to like quit my second and third jobs and actually like do passion projects like this. So I never would have imagined that this is where I would be at 30. In high school, I thought I would just, become a pediatrician and like become a mom and then, just work and have my kids. And now in my 30s, I'm still finding my career path, finding things that make me happy outside of my career. And not a mom yet, just wildly different.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I definitely went to college, and like I went to a specialized college. It was for photography. It was the leading photography school, not just in the country, but actually in the world at that time. Expected to be a travel photographer. My dream was to be not just on the cover of National Geographic, but one of their like very few on staff photographers. And going to college, I realized, well, not so much, I guess, at college, right? But I guess I didn't realize that that path would be like so much different. Like I just thought you would find the job, you have the passion for it, you go out there, you do it. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, it's not only is not enough. It is also a lot about who you know
Yeah.
and how much you're willing to give up of other things as well. And I also did not expect to sort of be switching around. I have my associates is in business management, and I'm more in business management than I've ever actually done in photography. Although photography has been a part of nearly every job I've had,
Mhm.
which is really great. Yeah. I got in college in a hair salon just to help me pay the bills, to help pay so I didn't have to take out as so many loans. And I never thought I would love it so much. And like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a hairdresser, and my hairdresser talked me out of it. She was just like, "It's awful. You're on your feet all day, yada yada." Hair salon, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. You know, it was just like so much fun. And I
Yeah.
have learned that like not every salon is fun. Like that was a specific set of people and like that was a situation and whatnot. Um, but yeah, still. And I actually tried and got in. Oh, I got into hair school and was planning that. And the universe had different plans for me. And I moved states and I got a job working in sales and it was a travel job. And I loved that because I was excited. I was like, oh, I've always wanted to travel. And so I got to travel all over the country to states like I would never have chosen to go to Wyoming or South Dakota on my own. But
Yeah.
this job sent me to places like that. Yeah, you know, and through it, I was able to do photography, not just on my own travel photography, but I was able to work for the company as a portrait photographer. That's what we were doing, although it was mostly in sales. And it was really unexpected to learn how much I hated to travel for work and learn how, I mean, when I was younger, it was just like a traveling photographer, like a traveling job was the biggest dream. And now I've learned that like people want to travel. The only people that want to travel for work are the people that have never traveled for before. Like it is not what it seems at
Travel is
all.
miserable for work.
Right. And I negotiated. I like sat down and negotiated with my that like I would have time in each city to actually be able to go off and explore and see things
Oh,
um and that was another thing, right? Like I didn't realize that because I grew up with strong women around me in a lot of ways that when I started negotiating that like one of the things he was like, I'm gonna give you what you want because no other woman in here before and been like, that's not good enough. I need this, this, and this. And I was just like, really? I should have asked for even more stuff. I should have been more demanding, man. You know, I definitely didn't expect my career to be all over the place to the point where like, I don't do photography now in any way at all. My camera equipment is completely out of date. Um, it was definitely, I thought it would be a straight cut. And even if it was kind of zigzag all over the place, I would be on one road, like one endpoint. And where I'm now is a completely different place,
yeah.
like a
I
thousand
definitely
percent.
gone like zoop, 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 you know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I just like I got completely out of the car that I was in and like I walked over and now I'm on a train. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did not and it's like a totally other topic and all that kind of stuff. But going from photography to like I want to be more like in the spiritual world, like not it wasn't on my radar when I was younger, you know. Um, so there's that. I still do a lot of art and things of that nature that I really love. Turns that I never expected myself to go into sales and business management and to enjoy managing people either. You know, that was not something I expected at
Yeah.
all in my career. Yeah.
So in terms of, you know, expectation versus reality, moving on, um, love, let's touch on that aspect. I
Yeah.
know for me growing up, it's you expect like, oh, I'm gonna go to college, I'll probably meet the love of my life, we'll get married, we'll have kids, be super happy. And now I'm in my 30s and still very single, and I know more of what I'm looking for after having, you know, dated or even just talked to different people and like growing up and realizing like what is important to me, and what values I hold, you know, deal breaker value kind of things.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that would have been the same if I had met somebody in my 20s. I definitely think that I would have grown, and that's the goal, is you want to grow, you want to be, you know, a person that's constantly evolving. But I'm not sure that if I had met the love of my life in my 20s, if we would have grown together and if we would have still been together, you know. And now that
Mhm.
divorce is not quite as stigmatized as it used to be, I think maybe that's why we see a little bit more of it, is because some people have realized, you know, we've both grown and we don't want the same things at the core that we thought we did.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that you touched on there was like the love of my life. And that is something that I expected, that we each had a love of our lives. It's like love that would come into our lives, and it was just that person, and it was going to work out, and it was how it was. And something my mom said to me as a kid that I didn't understand until now was, if she, we were talking, and I would ask her about her past relationships and just guys, and she had just said, well, if I chose to marry this person, I knew I'd have a very different life than if it was like instead I chose to marry your dad. And I was just like, what do you mean you chose to marry my dad? Like,
I thought you
you
just
fall in love, and that's what you do. You meet the love of your life. And now I'm in my 30s. I very much realize that love is not that simple, and there's so much more to it, and you do choose someone to live your life. You can, right? You choose that person. You can choose that person to live your life with, and depending whom you choose is going to lead you down very different roads.
Yeah.
In my 20s, I was in a serious relationship, and that started playing in my mind, especially as marriage started to become something of more of like a possibility, and it was a lot more in the discussions as the years went by, like, what does the future hold? And it was like, oh, you really have to think about what this person's future is going to be too,
Mhm.
because loving them, and especially when, like in my circumstance, it doesn't matter always how much you love another person if they don't love themselves.
Yeah.
And that was something that didn't occur to me at all as a kid. So it's a way more dynamic situation, way more complicated than I ever would have thought. I mean, Hollywood and romance novels made it seem so beautiful and simple and romantic and passionate and exciting. And the reality is that it's messy and it's hard and it's fun and it's just all, it can be all over the
Frustrating
place.
and wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's not just like being turned on all the time and having these beautiful moments here and every day, and it's always romantic and you work things out and you're just wrong. It's more like, no, you can really hurt somebody else's feelings in your anger, and you're definitely not turned on all the time. Sex is not as simple as it seems. It's much more emotional, and
Yeah.
it's messy. It's messy. Love can be messy, and I did not realize that as a kid.
Well,
And
that, and there's also not just one love of your life. Like,
yeah.
it's possible to be in love with more than one person, and then it's just, kind of like your mom said, if I married this person, I could have had this life. If I married that person, and it's like, how do you choose? Like, we don't know which way is going to be better, or maybe you choose no one because whatever. I just feel like I'm not getting it across, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not as simple as there's just one person. Now there's multiple things about
Mhm.
people, and I love people on different levels, and it's like, what's more important to me? Intimate love or emotional love? Like, do I want somebody who's going to be more supportive but maybe I'm not as attracted to, or somebody that, like, really fires me up but doesn't help build me to be a better person? It doesn't allow me to build them up to be a better person. So it's
Mhm.
looking at it at all these different aspects too, that I
Yeah.
never thought about when I was younger.
Never. It was totally unexpected. I thought, honestly, that someone, it flowed in a great way. You got married. You had kids. You built your life, and that was that. And it's so much more, especially when you fall in love with someone that has dreams that don't mesh with yours. They want a family, they want a house, they want roots. I want adventure and travel and no children. And she was like, oh, well, how do you, what? Sometimes love is just not enough. It's not this easy path.
Yep.
There's a lot more to it. And I'm also was not expecting to be happy to be single in my 30s. In my head, not that I like really thought too much about it, but never really pictured myself single in my 30s. But I thought that if I was, I would want to find a mate. I would want to find that person. Whereas I'm so content and happy on my own that somebody would, like, I don't know if I would want to like merge fully my life with somebody else. There's so many things to note,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, that I think that was probably one of the bigger surprises for me was the fact that love is not as easy as it's depicted. And I know that movies always have their, they have to have things fall apart to come back together. But
Yeah.
there's always this like underlying feeling of it's just easy, as well as it's just easy to get to know somebody. And it's not actually easy to fall in love because it is difficult to be vulnerable and get to those really deep places with another person,
Hmm.
you know? Um, and then to be content being single. People ask me all the time, "Are you married? Are you married? Well, are you dating? Oh, you don't have kids?" And I'm like, these are all choices that I made. I could be married. I could have kids. I could be dating. I chose not to. And just because I chose not to have those things at this moment doesn't mean I'm less happy than I could be.
Right.
You know?
And the nice thing is I think there is a movement towards that, because I remember when I was younger, looking at people and it's like, oh, if you're not married, like, well, what's wrong? Why aren't you married? And nowadays I think there is more of a movement of just looking at people in their 30s and 40s and whatnot. And great to the ones that have met somebody and want to live their lives together, but there's an understanding there of like, times have changed and people are different, and people aren't rushing necessarily to get married and have the family and the kids because they want to be fulfilled in their life first before they then go and tie their life with somebody else.
Like I never expected to be dealing with student loan debt in my 30s
Yeah.
still. And that being a factor in my love life.
Mhm.
Is what kind of debt does that person have? Am I going to be taking on their debt? Do they know how to handle their finances? Because that's important.
Yep.
If I want to travel all over the world, I need to have someone who's that we are in such a secure relationship that they can stay home and we can be apart from each other like that. Or I really need to find one that also has created a lifestyle that matches those things when I was a kid. I literally was looking at like how attracted am I to this person?
Yep. Mhm.
Hormones. My ovaries. That's what it was. My ovaries led my life, my love life throughout my 20s. And in my 30s, it's more of my brain, and my heart. But before
My brain.
hormonal, who am
But
I
I
attracted to?
definitely, like, I do notice a difference in my 30s in that, like, it didn't affect me so much in my 20s. Like, I would just date people, and whatnot. And now in my 30s, like, there is definite times, like, in the month where, like, my body is screaming, put a baby in me. I don't care who you are. I don't care. I don't care if any of our ideals line up. I don't even care if we stay together. Like, just my body wants a baby. And that was like a weird experience to like start having. Like, my body is literally telling me like, procreate, I am ready, when like mentally I'm not. Like, I
Yeah.
don't, and
Yeah.
just having that dissonance between your mind and your body, it
Mm-hmm.
nobody like, talked about that.
No, like I've not wanted children almost my whole life. People are like, I don't want kids. I don't want kids. I don't want kids. I didn't expect my body to betray me in that sense of like exactly like, no, you want a baby right now. Go get a baby. And then you think about it and you're like, a baby? But I don't want a baby. But my ovaries are like tick, 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 tick. You want a baby. And it's so
Yeah.
hormonal. And that was again, yeah, that was nothing to talked about at all. Nothing that people are just like, you will want babies, you will want babies, you
Uh-huh.
will. And I'm like, I'm not going to change my mind, but now I get it. Your body wants a baby.
Yes.
Your
And I mean, I definitely want
ovaries.
babies, but it's just like, I feel the internal clock now way more. And I'm sure women who have already had their kids in their 20s or like are having kids now, they're not feeling that pressure. But I
Yeah,
don't even feel like the societal pressure of course I feel that of having kids, but like I feel my own pressure of like, I want kids. That is something I want in my future, but I don't want to have them until I'm with somebody that I want to raise them with, and then it's
yeah,
making that choice of like, well, do I still have babies while I can, and then just choose to raise them on my own, you know? And it's that internal battle of, I want kids, and at what point am I just gonna choose to go rogue and kind of maybe do it on my own, or wait it out and see? Because some women can have babies into their 40s, some women can't, and you don't always know, you know?
Yeah, you have no idea. It just, yeah, and it was just a very unexpected thing for my body to feel like it almost betrayed me, because I've known that I haven't wanted children. It's part of my plan. And everyone's always like, oh, I see you with kids, this and that. And I'm just like, whatever, like, and then once my body is like, wants them. And man,
And I definitely think it's hard for people to recognize that some people just don't want children, because I have friends like you that never want them, knew that they didn't want them. And, there was one time you were saying, like, I've known since I was, in my 20s, and people keep consistently saying, no, you'll want them one day, you'll want them one day. And while that's maybe true, now that you're in your 30s, I feel like typically if you don't want them, chances are you're not gonna really want them. It's
well, I knew really young, and it was, for me, when I was always like, I worked with kids and I knew I didn't want them, because I just was like, they are so much work in themselves. And I knew the lifestyle that I want was not a very settled lifestyle. And it was much more unacceptable when we were younger to take your child all over the world with you and to not do something traditional. That is more acceptable now, to travel with your kid, to homeschool your kid, to do all those type of things.
Well, especially after now, homeschooling, I feel like is going to have a boom just from everybody homeschooling. It'll be interesting. Sorry, off topic.
That's okay. Oh yeah, and
Engaging world out there.
I don't know, just like that expectation of people, ever you will want kids, you will want kids. And part of me was like, will I? Is that going to change?
Yeah.
And so I date guys that wanted kids. I'm like, well, I don't now. I don't think I want them at all. But like, let's keep dating because maybe I will. Whereas at this point now, and wanted kids, I'd just be like, we can't be dating. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to give you children. And so that's not something I expected at all, and I certainly, yeah, I don't know. Love is a lot more complicated. I'm much happier being single and childless in my 30s than I anticipated.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I am happier than where I thought I would be had I not reached the goal of, having kids and being married and whatnot. Because my mind has changed over the years, so it's interesting to see from 18-year-old me to now.
Now, right? Yeah, I thought in some way my life would, no matter what, sort of follow the path of my mother's, of just, like, getting married, having kids, the career, all of it. And the reality is that you really can make what you want of your life despite what you're shown,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
That's a good segue into family. Family expectations from then to now, which we did get into the whole kind of baby and husband and things like that. But
Yeah.
even just, I didn't expect personally, my whole family lives in the Northeast, and my dad's whole side lives in the Northeast, and we see everybody for every holiday. And that's just how I thought it would be. I would just live in the Northeast forever and see my family all the time. And now I moved halfway across the country, and like, I don't even go home for some holidays. And so it's a different dynamic, thinking that when you're 18, you're going to live by all your best friends and all your siblings and all your family, and just, see everybody and get to watch all their kids grow up, to now being out here away from everyone and like actively having to make those trips back, or actively having to make those calls to maintain those friendships and those connections. It's a lot harder, and it's a lot different than what I anticipated would happen.
Yeah, I thought it would be a lot easier in a lot of senses, I guess, in that way. Like it, you wouldn't have to put in so much effort to
Hmm.
maintain things, you know. I had sort of like the opposite. I moved away very young and thought like, especially, I think I went home consistently for maybe 2 years for holidays. And then after that, I started doing holidays with friends, or I just started doing holidays alone. Like I can't even tell like how many Christmases I woke up by myself. And
It's
then
so weird to think because, like, as a kid, you're always thinking Christmas morning, you wake up and, there's your family and there's the tree and, like, you're going to go see more family. And to now, like, yeah, just waking up in the
what
morning.
for you? For me, I was a little different. Like I wasn't super close, right? Like my family in that sense. Whereas I had a lot of extended family, but we're sort of separate, my immediate family from that. And so I didn't spend time all of the Italian side of my family, all of the cousins and the uncles and the aunts and all of that. It was very much just sort of like my mom and my siblings. And, and we would see my dad on holidays. But I just expected that into my 30s, I always thought I would marry into a really large family. I thought I would marry someone with siblings, lots of nephews, lots of nieces, aunts, uncles, and that I would get my family fix that way,
Yeah.
and the opposite of it all is like, and so then I went through my 20s, like not super close with my family. There were definitely time periods where we didn't talk at all.
Mm.
Um, each and every one of us together. And now in my 30s, and I never in my expected my whole life that in my 30s is when we would all be flying into the same place to spend those holidays together. And I've
Yeah.
had multiple Christmases with all of my family members, and it's just like this is not something that I ever expected, nor did I expect myself to want it. I didn't expect to really be really close with them and to have those memories and to build those traditions. But here we are wearing matching pajamas with the dogs too, you
You're that
know.
family now. You're the Hallmark card family.
And flying in, yeah, for these family gatherings, and we have bigger Christmases now than we did when I was a kid. I mean, I mean, there's more money now, so it's a little easier to have bigger Christmases, but it's the opposite of what I thought. Growing up, we were kind of separate. It would stay that way, and we would all go off into our own families. And I didn't really think a whole lot about seeing my siblings when I was older. It was more about getting away and marrying into a family of my dreams, quote unquote. And instead, my family shifted to become more a unit of like that dream family than I ever anticipated. And so that's very different for me. It was very opposite from what I expected, for sure. It's weird to think about that though. That in my 30s is like some of the biggest Christmases I've ever had, and there's only one grandkid in the whole family. It's not like this big, lots of kids around. There's any reason for us to have these big Christmases, and yet we have them.
Well, and I think that's another topic is expectations maybe our parents had for us too, because I know my mom gives me, and she's kind of laid off in the past few years, but all through my 20s and like just up until maybe 2 years ago, she would give me crap about like I'm never gonna be a grandparent. Why won't you give me grandkids? All this stuff, and like my sister who's married, when are you gonna have kids? And I'm never gonna be a grandma and all this stuff. And it's like they expected to be grandparents by now. They thought like we have 3 kids. They're all headed to their 30s. Like we're gonna have all these like great family gatherings and kids in our lives, and, weddings and whatnot. And it hasn't happened. I mean, some of it has, but not, I think, according to their plan, which is, I think, a reality change for them too, and trying to navigate that whole thing. And
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I have two sisters as well, just like you. And my dad used to joke like, I'm only paying for one wedding. He's like, I'm gonna put a ladder under the window come of age, go off and get eloped. He was like, just do it. You
Yeah.
know, because my parents eloped and they're like, just, and now my sister got married a few months ago and my dad is just got off so cheap. The wedding was less than 10 grand. He's like, I got off so cheap, but they expected to have, and my mom talks about it. I thought that, you guys would all have kids and you'd all live close to me
Yeah.
and we'd have these great big holidays all the time and Sunday dinners and da da da. I'm just like, I'm like, if we didn't do it growing up, why would we do it now?
Yeah.
And
That was a big change. Yeah.
they're finally accepted that I don't want kids. It took them a long time, my parents, to accept that. You'll change your mind. You'll change your mind. Meet someone and change your mind. And I'm like, if he wants kids, he's not the one for me, yo. Like, I know that. And they're just like, no, you're going to meet someone. You're going to meet someone who wants kids and you're going to have kids. And
Yeah. I think they have a hard time when it doesn't go according to their plan either. Because, I would imagine when you have kids, you have a plan for them. You have a vision of how their life is going to go with all your best intentions towards it. But I remember when I said to my parents, like, I'm moving, I'm going to move out of state. I remember my dad being like, that's such a stupid idea. It's such a stupid, why would you do that? And it's like, just because you didn't want that and you didn't see that for me doesn't mean it's a stupid idea. It's just a different idea. And I mean, now he's come around, but he was so mad at me. He didn't talk to me for probably like a good month after I moved. And I think it was him reconciling the fact that I'm not doing the life that they planned and I'm not living that life, but I'm also not living the life I planned to live. You live it. It happens to you. Yeah.
That's very true. I think our parents need to reconcile with themselves that and maybe this is what happens when you have kids. I don't know. You picture out a future or whatnot, and it's just not the reality at all. And I know that, right now, my nephew, like my mom is it's nice to see my parents as grandparents. They do just, and I think they're both okay with the fact that this might be the only grandkid too, you know? But it's like certain things are just like, it's unexpected to like, they had the kid before getting married and not for any particular reason because they were like married in spirit without the paper, and ended up doing this for some other, and my parents just kind of had to realize that it's not going to go the way that they thought, and it's not going to live the life that they lived.
Very different.
At all. I definitely didn't do the career my parents wanted.
No.
At all. I mean, man, did they push for me to be a teacher. And I was just like, there's nothing in this world that sounds more awful to me than working, and this is going to sound terrible, but like working with kids all the time. It's not that I don't love children, but I wouldn't love that job at all. And it was because, like, you get summers off. Oh, you get summers off. You get
okay. Former teacher, yes, you get summers off, but you're still doing curriculum and training and like getting a summer job because you.
But their thought was like, you would have time off with your kids, and I'm like, but I don't want kids. I don't need summers off because my kids have summers off. I don't need Christmas off because my kids have Christmas off. Like I want to be a teacher. So there's no reason for me to become a teacher except that you want me to. And you're pushing me in that direction because my career as a photographer didn't work out the way that I thought it would, So it's amazing. And I didn't expect them to also come around and be as supportive of the fact that I chose my own way and I stuck. And now they're really supportive of my decisions and my choices in life. But like in my 20s, they definitely had different expectations. Yeah.
Well, and I think there's also that learning curve of realizing that you've grown up. Like I still feel like, when am I going to feel like an adult? And I do in some aspects, but in other aspects I don't, and it's kind of breaking yourself away from your parents and kind of being like, no, when I was younger, yeah, they had a say in what I did, and now I can listen. They have valuable information, but it doesn't mean I have to take it. It doesn't mean I have to abide by it or follow it. And that took me a really long time to kind of work past and be like, no, it's my life, and yes, I know that you want these things for me, and I know that you've experienced certain things that make you want to say don't try that, but at the end of the day, it is my choice, and I'm going to take into consideration things that you've said that is knowledgeable and helpful, but I have to live my own life, and they have to let me make those mistakes. And my parents have found a balance with it. I think, took a little time. But I reached it, but it took a while to kind of break apart and be like, no, I can do what I want.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I definitely listened to them at times when my heart was telling me to do the opposite of what they were pushing.
Mhm.
And through learning those mistakes in my 20s, it came to the point where, yeah, now, like, okay, give me your advice, but know that that's what it is. It's advice that I can take it or I can leave it.
Yep.
And I listen because you just might be right. I said, but it has to be my decision. I did expect to feel more like an adult in my 30s. I thought you just kind of like were an adult and you had your things together and it was different. And now I realize that it's no, I don't think anybody ever feels like they're together or an adult. And no one ever feels like ready to, like, I can't believe my parents had 4 kids in their 30s. I'm just like,
Hmm. Or like realizing when you get to the realization of like, at this point in time, my parents had 3 kids and they were raising us. And like me now, when I was teaching, having these kids look up to you, thinking that like, well, you know everything, you're the adult. And it's like, I'm the adult here. Like there's nobody else. Oh, I'm the adult here. Like there's no one else to turn to. There's no one else to ask questions, and like having to make those decisions. And especially those split second decisions of like, how is this going to affect these children's lives? Like whatever I say next or whatever I do next or however they see me react to something next, realizing that you now have that power and they're looking up to you, thinking that you know all and you know best. And in actuality, you're trying your best, but you don't know all. And I don't think we ever will. Like that was a big realization of like,
no,
I
you don't
don't think anybody
know.
truly feels like they have all their shit together and all their ducks in a row.
No. But in my 20s, I didn't always realize the consequences of that. And in my 30s, like my 20s, it was more, I don't have my share. I can try this out. I can figure it out. I can do this. And if it doesn't work out, I'll do that. But now I'm in my 30s and you realize like, well, some of these decisions have like a long time implication to them in your life. And you're going to have to deal with the results of that, whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
And I definitely take my time now. I'm less impulsive.
Mhm.
Definitely take my time to really think decisions through, as well as I'm much more likely to do what feels really good to me as opposed to like taking that advice from my parents it doesn't have weight as it used to,
Yes.
because it's not their life, it's not their time, and things have changed so much. I know things changed between their parents' generation and mine, but nowhere near, because of this technological age, has it changed more, I think, than between our parents' generation and our generation. And so even some of the advice and their info, it's just outdated. And it's like, that's actually not how it works anymore. It's just not.
Yeah.
And so I definitely make just much more for myself and based on my future, where I used to always think in the moment. My decisions were about the here and then now. And now I'm making decisions for my future self to be an improvement. And that is pretty new. And that's unexpected because I just thought things worked out. I didn't know it was going to be so complicated.
Well, or I remember thinking like, oh my God, if I do this, that'll take me 5 years before I get to that point, or it'll take me, when I was looking into like, well, if I want to be a doctor, it'll take me, 8 years to go through school. I don't want to spend that time. And then getting to that point and being like, oh, 8 years wasn't that long. Like I could have done it if I had the passion. I didn't have the passion. But, like looking back and being like, it's really not that. I mean, it sounds like a long time, but at the end of the day, it's not, and
It
stuff.
moves so much faster than it did in my 20s. By far. I mean, high school time was like crawled by. And now I'm just like, I'm about to be 35 and I'm like,
Yep.
when did that happen?
Yeah. Where did it go? Blink of an eye.
Right? And it's just going to keep going faster and it's just going to keep happening. And it's like, all right, it's time to really use discernment in your life and in my decisions and what does the future hold. I'm much less, like I said, less like sort of sporadic and chaotic in my decisions and choices. It's not just like, whatever, I'm going to blow off that college class today and I'm going to go party in LA, which is an actual example, right? Like, let me go party in LA, or go, quit my job so I can go on this road trip randomly. Whereas now it's like, oh, I might not, as I am such a good job somewhere with all of those benefits that I need, because I do need a job now with benefits and things, So there's a lot more thinking in my than I expected. I thought things would be more easy. And I thought things would just kind of be on this one track, but I still have so much more future ahead of me than I realized. Because as fast as time has gone by in my 30s, and as much as I thought that I would feel an adult in my 30s, it also kind of seemed like almost the end of my life. Like, you're an adult, that's it. Like, family life, whatever, you're done. It's like, no, I'm really only in my 30s. There's still a lot of life left, and 30s is not old. It is still young and sexy and hot and healthy and fun, and 40s is going to be the same, and life is really what you make of it. Like my 20s, kind of, some of it just happened to me. 30s is more about making my life, like making it what I want.
30s is definitely more choices, like you said. In the 20s, life happened to you. I think 30s, I have more control and more power and more say over what I'm doing. I like that. I appreciate it. I'm happy to have reached this point. Would I go back and do some things differently? Hell yeah. But I'm enjoying where I'm at now. So, and you actually said something the other day that I wrote down. You said, life is long even when it's short. And I thought that was such a good notion, a good quote.
All right.
Yeah.
Life is long. I mean, life never ends, and that's the thing. Like, it's, if you want to get like really esoteric about it, life never ends. Just this physical body does. But it's like, life is long, but moments are short, and moments go by.
Yeah.
So it's about really savoring them and enjoying them, and that's something else I didn't expect to learn. That's to really enjoy the moment, because it will pass by. Absolutely nothing will. When people say nothing lasts forever, and the good and the bad, that's the truth. Like, things only stay one way for so long. It's always evolving, changing. And there were times in my 20s where I felt really helpless and hopeless. And now, like, that will pass. It's going to pass, and things will shift in your favor again. And then the wheel will turn, and you're going to be in the crapper at another moment. And it's more about how you handle it than those things actually happening.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to end it.
I agree.
Well, learn from us.
Follow your heart. Listen to your parents' advice, but don't follow it blind. Don't do what they want.
Live your life.
And your 30s is not the end. You're not old in your 30s.
Oh yeah, no. And we won't be old in our 40s or 50s. Maybe 60s.
No, I'm excited for 40s. I mean, I love my 30s. It's more, I'm more confident and comfortable in my body and my personality than I ever was before. And that's something I didn't expect. And even with like my mom, my grandmother, almost everybody that I would ask, they'd always say, like, specifically like 32, like, you love your 30s, you're going to love your 30s. And I'm like, no, your 20s is where it's at, because that's where it's at in Hollywood. The 20s is where everything happens in Hollywood. And there's that notion that you can be too old. But the reality is that like your 30s is where you really start to come into your own.
Mm-hmm.
And to, especially as women.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And just embrace it. Yeah. Yeah. Cheers.
All right. Well, that's everything we have on this episode. But next time, we're going to be talking about religion and spirituality. So tune in for that. But until then, stay beautiful.
Bye.
Bye.